I'm calling this meeting of the Nantucket Historic District Commission to order. It is 4:36 on Tuesday, April 16th. Present at today's meeting are Stephen Welch, Diane Coombs, Val Oliver, Abby Camp, and myself, Ray Pohl. TJ should be joining us shortly. For those of you in the audience, we have two things that I'm sure you've all heard before. One is that if you want to record any portion of tonight's meeting for your own purposes, please let us know in advance. This meeting is being recorded in its entirety. And second, if you're having any conversations other than at this table, could they go out in the hallway just so that we can pick up what's being heard, what's being said at the table. Thank you. Any amendments to the agenda, John?
Yes, number 24.
24 on old business.
Yeah, and number 32 are coming off.
24 and 32 off.
Yes.
24 off.
Yeah.
32 off?
Yes.
32 off. Okay, very good. Now, may I have a motion to approve the...
So moved.
Thank you, Diane. All those in favor of Diane's motion to approve tonight's modified agenda?
Aye.
Thank you. Is there any public comment at this time?
Yes.
Did I hear yes?
Yes.
Come on up.
Absolutely. Quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. I know this
Hey,
is-
Steve,
this
I'm
is a topic.
sure I don't need to tell you this. So, when it comes under public comment, you present,
Yep.
and our board is not allowed to deliberate.
No, that's fine.
But if it's something that we want to take up and deliberate,
Yep.
we can add it then to other business, in which case it's properly noticed and we can deliberate.
So noted.
So you have the mic.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
He got a new dog, so he's been telling everybody about it.
Is that the announcement?
Doesn't really rise to public comment.
No,
Sorry.
that's okay, John.
And
Yeah.
it's a spotted dog, and it wasn't.
Unless you brought pictures.
Yeah,
I know this is on your guys' agenda
let them dissolve.
to review this, okay? So I have a client in Sconset on the Sleet Wing outside the ROH.
Yes.
Who wants to use Borel trim. Okay, now Borel trim is a recycled product made from coal ash. And I know it's on your agenda to review and have a discussion on it. And I want to know, is it worth my while to make an application to ask this board for approval for it? Or is it something that's a non-starter?
We're not gonna make a decision before you need to order it.
You can't deliberate or discuss.
We can't deliberate,
Right.
but what I think I can say is
It depends on the
make
board.
the application,
Okay. Well,
and then we can discuss it.
okay. Here is
All right.
here's the information I wanted to drop off. I didn't want to take up any more time.
Okay, thank you,
And thank
Steve.
you very
Thank
much.
you.
All right,
Okay.
thanks.
Yeah.
Are there multiple copies here?
No, just that one.
All right, thanks.
What
Yeah.
number sleep?
That's Mr. Hunter's house.
Okay,
Okay?
thanks.
Hey, Steve,
Yes.
could you, maybe you got that in PDF?
Yeah.
Could you submit that to John? He can distribute it
Yeah.
to us?
Yeah, sure.
That'd be
That,
good.
right, just so that everybody has it, Steve.
got it.
I think that's a good point.
No.
Hey, everybody, I want to make a public comment. I was at the, well, Stephen and I and John were at the select board. Actually, was John there for the appeal or just you? Had John left by that time?
He left.
He had left. Okay, so Steve and I were there for the appeal of the pool. And a few things came out of it that I just want.
What address?
This is in
Westerwick.
Westerwick.
Oh.
All right. So, a few things came out of it that I think I want to pass along. One is, so far as chair, I have allowed people who have recused to then turn around and make comments as, a citizen, public citizen. That seems to have very much muddied the waters. We won the appeal, but there was a whole bunch of discussion about potential conflict of interest and so forth. So I talked to town council, and they said it's legal for me to do that, but it isn't necessarily when we get down to appeals and stuff like that. It's just something that confuses the whole issue. So I think that if you're going to recuse from an application, I think the best thing to do would simply be to remove yourself from the table, which that part of it is a legality. You have to physically remove yourself from the table. And I would prefer that you didn't speak.
Oh,
Again-
so we can't go up and come around and speak?
Yeah,
Okay.
you know, so again, town council advised me that it is legal, but sometimes it allows the other side to, you know, eat holes in our case. So, that's the way I think I'm gonna, well, I think we're also voting for officers, so that might be a very short-lived policy, I don't know.
Is it, I know it was me that was discussed. I found
No,
that
no, we
out
can't
after.
deliberate.
I'm not deliberating, I'm asking a question.
Yeah,
I think it was saying recused rather than
abstain,
abstain.
that was different, okay? That was a different member of the board who, I don't think, quite appreciates the difference between a recusal and an abstention. So the other thing that came out of it is, if you're going to recuse, you do so at the very beginning of the hearing. You don't sit on the application for 3 or 4 meetings and then decide to recuse.
Oh, I recused from the beginning.
No, it's,
I'm not
Okay.
saying it's you.
All right.
it's the
Okay.
weighing your opinions and that.
Right,
Get the
so
vote.
that was another
Oh,
thing
see.
that muddied the waters, and I
Okay.
would have brought up, but, you know, it's not really relevant to the people that are sitting at the table right now. That's it. Okay, so, election of officers, there we are. What do we do?
What is that election of office?
Well, after, we just had, well, you and John
Yeah.
just got reelected. So right out, usually it's not,
Officers.
how do I say this?
John should be here.
It's policy, what's that?
John should be here.
Are we gonna vote
John,
like
just an
chair
FYI on that point,
Yeah,
that has been the tradition,
yes.
to have this occur right after the elections, because it seems to make a lot of sense to do it that way.
Yes.
But we don't have to do it right away. And
No,
I think,
since
in fairness to John, it's probably, you know,
Oh.
that's
You
a
should
good idea.
really probably have a full
So,
board anyway.
shall we just hold
so-
that for a full
Yeah, let's
board?
make a
Right, because
motion to
it's
hold
the
it.
board, the 5 members who vote on it, you would like to say something, I'm sure.
Is that for chair and vice
Yeah.
chair? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to hold that for the
Yeah.
whole board to be
Okay,
here.
that sounds fine, thank you. Now we have all in favor, sorry. You have to help me out tonight.
Yeah.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
very good. Now, all right, now we're on to the consent agenda. Anybody, Val, you need to recuse.
I'm getting up and I'm moving.
Oh, and you need to recuse.
Mr.
Oh,
Wallace?
and TJ just showed up.
I'm here.
Oh, great.
miracle.
So that's actually really good news because
He needs to
Here we
for
are
more
for
than one
4
reason.
people.
So Val's recused, Steven's recused. Can I have a motion to
And TJ, you're on
approve?
there.
I got to recuse too.
You do too?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just the 3 of us, still
Make a
fine.
motion to approve the consent
Very good.
agenda.
All right, thank you, Diane. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, there you go.
And how about the consent with conditions?
Well, interestingly, we have signs interposed between
Yeah.
consent with
Yeah.
conditions. Can we,
You can take them out of order, to
all
be
right,
honest.
so
It was a
why don't we just
formatting
continue
thing.
with consent with conditions? Now, nobody needs, as far as I know, nobody needs to recuse from that one, right?
Right,
So
right.
we have Val, Diane, so which one of you 2 associates wants to handle that one?
I'll be on it.
Okay.
Okay, motion to approve consent with conditions.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we can go back to signs.
Hey, Kev, welcome.
Hello. Very quickly, all of these were held for representation.
Okay.
Oh, motion to hold for representation.
Very good.
What is 17 Main Street?
The old Nobby.
Another real estate
God.
A
office.
real estate, is that real?
No, it's not real estate.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
What?
They
Wait.
came in with aluminum signs and applied letters.
Nice.
And so we have
Oh,
a
gosh.
little work to do.
Wow, okay,
Alright.
but we're gonna hold that anyway for
I
representation.
thought we had.
All those in
that.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin.
There's no mandate.
Okay,
What
now we
need
are
to
on
keep
to the review of plans and discussion of sidewalk work on Washington Street. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, were they surprised?
Hey, the guidelines. Could be something else, you can come to the meeting.
Yeah. See,
For those of you that weren't present or did not watch it on television, this was discussed at length at the select board meeting last Wednesday. And this is sort of a test case. A test case that will sort of reveal how we as a board are going to move forward with review of applications coming from the DPW. And so what came out at the meeting, and Rob, please tell me if I'm saying more than I should be, but I'm just doing sort of an overview. Yeah. So, Rob is here on behalf of the DPW, of course, for us to review a proposal down on Washington Street, roughly in the area of the Artists Association, down to the corner where Coffin Street comes in. There's a sidewalk there and curbing, etc., that they want to redo. And the select board invited our board to participate in a review of what's being done and to comment on the work from our perspective. So that is what we have in front of us right now. Oh, and I should also be clear that this is not an official application. This is, Rob is soliciting our opinions. So we won't actually vote on anything. We'll just, I think, everyone sitting at the table right now is invited to give their opinion about whatever Rob has to say. Okay? So with that, Rob, why don't you take us through your proposal?
Great, thank you very much. So, I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I would say that we started this process and will continue this process to actually develop the process on how sidewalk improvements and other public right-of-way projects proceed in the future. And we're working together with Ray and others to really refine that. So I appreciate the opportunity here. We are currently, if you've been down Washington Street lately, we've currently started with our contractor to complete a project that was previously conceived and started, which is anticipated to be done either later this week or certainly before Daffodil, from the town pier just to Coffin Street. When we started the project, or shortly after, we were approached by the folks over at the American Legion. And in fact, the town manager received a note that I included in the package here. That basically said that the American Legion, shown on the plan where the ADA compliant ramp is pointed out.
Yep.
To construct ADA compliant ramp. It's a handicap parking space. One of, I think it might be the only one on the stretch So,
Rob, is that where this blue car is right now? Is that
Have it?
the HC spot?
no, you can actually see the shadow of or the sign itself. It's,
Oh,
To the
okay,
left.
yes.
the sign shadow, or the top of the sign is actually blocking the faded handicap spot
Got
sign.
it.
Right?
Okay.
So it's that little space. In front of that is no parking, and I think where the blue car is a loading zone. So the American Legion came to us and said, hey, if you're planning to stop at Coffin Street, we would really invite you to continue the project all the way up to Salem Street, and certainly as you come by us, to correct the ADA ramp into the Legion property.
Oh,
So-
Rob, we have a question already.
Yes.
I'm
I
unfamiliar
remember-
with Salem Street. Where
Yeah,
is
it's just
Salem?
at the top of the page.
We're stopping shop.
Oh, that little thing is
Oh, yeah,
called
yeah, yeah. I
Salem
knew I'd
Street.
seen
Yeah.
it.
I'll be darned. Okay, thanks.
No
All right.
problem. So the idea would be to essentially do something similar to what we've taken on from Coffin to the town pier, from Coffin all the way up to Salem Street, which is basically, you'll see from Coffin roughly to the crosswalk about halfway up at the square, and I'm not sure if there's an unnamed one-way at the bus terminal that allows you to turn from Kendall over to Washington.
Yeah.
That crosswalk right there. Ultimately, from that point back to Coffin Street is, that whole curb line is all precast concrete curb. So the idea would be to replace that and keep the keep the granite curb that exists from that crosswalk up to Salem Street. So it'd simply be a remove and reset the existing granite curb, and a remove and reset the existing brick. There's lots of brick there that's out of whack, broken, and that stuff. Those would be changed out individually with the same type, the same manufacturer that we use.
This is, just to be clear, that what you just described is on the length going from Salem down to the crosswalk,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
So that's already granite, it's already brick, and you're
Yes.
just gonna pick that up, reset it, done.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Then from the crosswalk to Coffin Street, there was 2 appreciable recommended changes. One was the driveway apron into the handlebar property.
Mm-hmm.
That is currently asphalt.
Yeah, I see that.
We're looking to make that brick
Mhm.
to match the both sides. And then in front of the Legion, which is actually under shadow in this photograph, is concrete. That's broken up concrete. And there's lots of pictures in the packet that we took to kind of show you the details there. So the Legion requested that that area be removed and be replaced with brick.
That's the pictures he's talking about.
And then the last piece of this is to replace the precast concrete curbing around the monument
Yeah, I see that,
with granite curb.
Where's the monument?
right here.
It's right in the center.
So that little triangle right now,
That's a monument?
there's a stone
Okay.
there with, I think it's a
Yeah, it's
war
been a
memorial.
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah,
Cars parked
And that's
around
gonna get
the
granite
front
curbing?
seat.
yeah, as opposed to the current.
May I ask
Of course,
one question?
yeah.
On one of your pictures, you have it just described as, replacing with new, removing the old curbing and replacing it with new curbing. And I live on Union Street, up one, from right where all this is taking place. And one of the things coming down Washington Street or Coffin, or coming up from town and going out is where there's a new granite curb replacing existing precast concrete curb on Washington Street. It raises the street a considerable amount of inches. And actually, I think downtown, and you've heard me say this before, it's not come as a surprise to you, is that I don't think that the knife edge curbing should be used, particularly in the old historic district. It doesn't look historic. It isn't historic, and the cars go by there at, and those sharp curbs that you're asking to replace with cut the tires. They're well known for cutting them out at the airport.
Sure. I clearly, I understand what you're talking about, Diane. What I would tell you is that this particular stretch, there's parking allowed along the entire curb line. And while the stretch, we're talking about replacing the curb from the crosswalk to Coffin Street. We did measure it all, and it is all 6-inch reveal. So we're not raising the curb line any than what's gonna be there currently.
This is what's there currently, right?
Well,
This is what you're.
Rob,
Sure. What I could, yeah,
Right.
so along that stretch, there are, the predominant dimension that was measured was 6 inches, pretty
Okay.
consistently.
All right.
There may be places where the curb line dips below 6 inches, but John came out and spent some time with us on Thursday, and maybe since then as well. He can speak to what he's found as well.
What stretch of the street is this?
That's the newly laid section along Washington.
Where?
That would be from Coffin to Town Pier.
Up to the town pier. So the town parking lot is over here.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is what's there now.
Yes, ma'am.
But there's no parking.
What we're talking about is not that. We're talking about from Lobster Trap
Yeah.
up to the Force 5 Water Sports.
Down.
down,
It's
yeah.
down, not up.
Correct.
Oh, to an old brain, it's confusing. I think that is much too modern looking. I don't know.
Well,
You
this
mean that
curb,
particular
the
curb?
existing,
style?
That particular,
there is an
curb.
existing curb that's in front of
Force
Force
5.
5, like that whole, that's exactly, that's the same stuff. It's the sharp edge saw cut top.
this is,
But to that point, Diane, I can understand what you're saying. One thing I did offer to the group that was at the board meeting last Wednesday is that we have, and I didn't bring it with me tonight, but we have a large sample
I know, you said you were gonna
to chisel top,
do that.
to look at that and to try to soften the edges. And this is really when we're looking about trying to supplement stuff. We have stuff in the yard that we would pull from as well to try to supplement if we get into the historic core. We wouldn't be looking to use brand spanking new stuff.
I think downtown, I don't know whether the decision has been made that you have to come to us before you do something like that.
Diane, I'm gonna reiterate something. So, the select board discussed this for a long time. There was a lot of input from various people. And it just so happened that somebody, perhaps you, brought up this work. And it was decided at that time that this would be our sort of test case, that this would come before our board, we would render our opinions, and then Rob would walk away, but it would be officially reviewed. So that's where we are.
This particular project,
This-
not the whole overall procedures and policies and
No,
standards.
because I think the select board is still trying to get their arms around what exactly they're gonna allow. So that's why this is here.
Well, we had,
And I would add to that, to Ray's comments though, but Ray has been invited to be part of this review group to represent HDC there, along with a number of other organizations. So HDC continues to have representation through this development of this process.
Well, my view is still in the downtown old historic area that the old curbing with the rounded, whatever you want to call the rounded edges, not be used as this has been used. Your friend Hillary Raypool, I guess, went out to look for the old curbing at the DPW and couldn't find it. So we didn't know what happened to the old curbing that came out down around the Pacific Club and where the taxis park near the club car. I would like to see this board stand up for the rounded curbs that are
Okay.
used.
I'd like to stay on that point for a little while.
Okay,
Because one of the things that was discussed, and I remember in particular, was Matt Fee said, wow, that sharp edge curbing, he, has his delivery trucks, and he says when they back up, if the wheel hits the sharp curb, they lose the tire.
right.
And so it's a practical consideration, but it's also, I think, an aesthetic consideration that, can we get rounded edges? I mean, I know Matt Fee would
So-
certainly be happy about that.
So
And-
I would say two things. There's more than half. Well, I'll call it half of this project is already in
Right.
that
Understood.
situation, and we don't have because of the parking along that, we don't have the situation that Diane is talking about, where we have people that are driving, past this and slashing tires. People are parking
Oh, well,
against it.
Why not? Because like if I thought I understood Matt, that if he was sort of backing into a parking space and he cut it too close, his wheel's gonna hit that sharp edge and, it's gonna gouge the tire. Isn't that what he was talking about?
Well, again, it depends on the driver.
Yeah.
But
Right,
it also
This
depends
isn't a-
on the look. Those
I think
edges-
it comes
Right.
back really more to the look and making sure that, because people mount the curbs everywhere.
Right.
Whether it's 6 inches higher or it's sharper or softer. I think the point being is that we're looking into, for any new material, we're trying to accommodate that concern by having that edge softened and the top softened where we can. Of course, the cost of it is more than double.
Really?
Having a chisel top and then having it having the edge softened is probably going to add to that. But we will look into it. We will continue. We're going to get the same people who already sent us the chisel top sample. We can see what they can do to sort of round it without necessarily. We don't. We've seen another sample that has the chisel top but a machined chamfer, and trust me, I'm not going to show you that one. It's just not.
That doesn't sound
Yeah,
like
that
it.
sounds.
From
that
day
could be
one,
harsh, too.
it probably would be fine. Like it would be horrible. It would soften with time,
Everything
like
does.
anything else.
Yeah.
So and that's another important piece to this. The pictures you're looking at, and I know we're focusing on curb right now, but the brick on the section that's under construction currently, we're reusing the brick that we pulled up, and we're doing that, where we can throughout all the projects we've done downtown. We're supplementing those with new brick where we need to, but for the most part, we're reusing the stuff that is reusable.
Well, I think that the bricks are one thing. I think the curbstones are something that really hits you. And when you have tourists coming to a island that depends on tourists,
Sure.
and they say, well, why do you come to Nantucket? What do you like to see? They say, oh, I'd like to see Main Street and the trees and the lovely sidewalks going up the side. They look like that. They're not lovely. They could be in Boston or New York or anywhere else. There's nothing about them that makes them to here. We have, over the years, maintained most of those rounded curbstones, which give a look that are drawing your tourists to come and see them. And I think that's important, whether it costs more money or not.
I agree,
It's gonna bring people here that wouldn't come.
agree.
We're killing the downtown as fast as we can, and what can be saved, I think, is very important.
So, what we're talking about is replacing the precast concrete
Right,
with granite.
right.
I have already committed to getting granite that at some point, not for this project. This project was intended to have the same that's already across from the bus station, which is the saw top, the same stuff that we're putting down currently. And if that's something that is not conducive to what the commission is telling me you want overall, it's gonna be a change in look in what's currently up there on the other half of this project, but I am happy to listen.
So,
Yeah, what's a
Diane,
slot?
I'm gonna go around the table right now. So we'll start with Steve.
Okay.
I wanna hear, from everyone unless you simply don't have anything further to add.
I'd like to point out two things to start. One is the John McLaughlin stop, the J McLaughlin store is on Salem Street,
Correct.
just so that doesn't elude anyone. You didn't know it was Salem Street before, did you?
I'm glad you
found
told
out
us here.
just now.
He's
So-
not, he doesn't own the store, but he's McLaughlin. The other thing I wanted to just mention was, I'd met John over the years many times. More recently, he was on Hooper Farm Road and he inadvertently sideswiped the sharp-edged curb and I ended up changing his tire for him. That was a few years ago. So that's just kind of relevant to this. Specifically on the application, well, it's not an application, but on the project in front of us, I'd like to suggest that to the extent you can look into it, granted, if you guys set up a template, you can run a grinder edge down that thing and take just the most imperceptible little sharp edge off of it. It's just a suggestion to think about. I'm not looking for a response. I understand the position you're in. Just suggesting that you consider it. I've worked with a lot of granite. It can be done, and it might be done much more simply than you think. And I think you could win a lot of hearts and minds if you were able to accomplish it. This is a little bit different than doing 5 counters at a time. There's a lot of lineal footage here. I
Oh,
understand
there's
that.
no doubt.
Yeah.
I would tell you that we could run a grinder from the top of this job at Salem Street all the way to the town pier parking lot.
Oh, in place.
I'd be happy to do
I mean,
that.
I think it would make a slight difference. It'll be
That's a
that
great
little bit
idea.
of, it will make a little bit of difference. So
Yeah.
that was number one on a broad-based scale.
Mhm.
I did want to ask, since John's not here, and I know he would ask, the existing granite curb. Rob, obviously, you're going to be pulling some of that stuff out. You are removal and reset of existing granite. So am I to understand that you're putting the granite back in?
Yes.
Okay, so the stock that, you're gonna have some breakage, it's gonna happen. Do you have stock to pull from, or how do you anticipate addressing that?
It's all being set in concrete, so it'd go right
You
back.
put it right back in?
Yep.
Okay, thank you, that's helpful information. Just write down the list, the replacing that asphalt driveway, great thing. Removing the existing precast concrete and replacing it. This is an opportunity to bring up a topic that came up at the meeting, and I think it's important, is that this is an area that, and I'm using these terms loosely, so please don't crucify me, anyone. The idea that we have structures within the old historic district that are significant and not significant. We have contributing and non-contributing. This area, and in particular the area with the existing precast concrete, would, to my mind, subject to definitions for common language and understanding, be a non-significant, non-contributing area where I would like to think that if these start to come in front of us as applications and subject to some important input from professionals, preservationists and historians who help us grade the materials and policies and procedures, that we would be able to set up that's a non-significant, non-contributing area, that particular area, And that would be, almost have a type of a consent approval, much like we do in the old historic district, certain materials, like 3-tab roof shingles of a certain color.
Right.
Subject, of course, to review by the, everything's still open to review by the commission. The reason I think that that would be helpful is because it would allow the DPW to come in and go through the application process and do the work they need to do in a timely manner. However, it also provides the HCC the opportunity to weigh in, again, through having consultant, advisory, historian, preservation type persons, so that we aren't losing the resources that Diane has brought up, I think eloquently, and were brought up at the select board meeting and the informational meetings that Rob has put on, because those are terribly important. But that's a concept I would like you guys to think about, because I think it's an important one. The other part of that that ties in, just briefly, is the idea that with that type of a process, there would be certain areas that we could maybe work in some oversight, like midway through the progress of a project, we could hop in. If it was 86 or 88 Main, someone would go and take a quick look at it, just to make sure there was no miscommunication. If there was, it would be addressed. That Miss Macy warehouse comes up, so that's why I mentioned it. So that could again help alleviate some potential concerns and problems before they happened. And then last, I would say East Edge segmentation, oversight. We covered breakage in stock. That was it for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Val?
I have nothing to add.
Okay. TJ?
I'm the same. I agree with, be good to have the antique granite or do a little chamfer like Steve said. But everything else looks fine.
Thank you. Abby?
Yeah, I'd like to see anywhere we have the old granite to keep that, work with it. And I appreciate redoing the concrete on that side. It actually is a very, it's used a lot, people going from the gallery and so forth, going out to Washington Street, and but I also want to say, I want to compliment you, because I actually ride my bike and walk down further Washington Street, and it looks great. I mean, it's the Washington Street that you're cleaning up the curbs, and the brickwork looks really good. But I don't know where, like, back on Steve's point, where we wouldn't chamfer or what's it called, grind the edge. Is that their term?
I think I don't want to unnecessarily speak for the board,
Okay.
but I almost think that I'm speaking for the town at large in saying there's aesthetic reasons to do it, and there are also pragmatic reasons to do that. And so what I'm going to show Rob. This is a photograph that I think that's John Hedden's shadow right there. So this is right at the corner of Forest 5, okay, as you're going into town. And I'm looking at that curbing, and that's not old curbing. Clearly not, right?
Correct.
But the interesting thing about it is, look at the edge. The edge is not sharp.
So it's been plowed. It takes a couple of years.
You mean
It'll-
the snow plow?
The snow plow edge will do
So
the
it will
same
give it a
job.
certain patina, but,
Sure.
so I think that what we're looking for there is, so the interesting thing is,
I'm looking for the vocabulary. I want to know what it is.
So-
What is it when you have a curb and it's softened? What is that
that's,
verb?
Could be
well,
an
that is
It's
called an
transition.
eased edge.
That's it. Well, okay.
Oh,
You're looking at a transition stone that goes actually into a handicap ramp.
But
Well,
if you
no,
were
but
to,
like
if
this
you were
right
to-
here.
if you were to take a new curb and you wanted to soften the edge, what would you call that?
I'm not gonna cut my tire on that curb. But there are curbs, I think there might be a couple of examples
I hear you.
in here where it's like sharp, I could run my finger across
If
it
you're
and
gonna
cut my
soften
finger.
that curb, what do you call that?
Yeah, eased edge.
Technically.
An eased
I'm not
edge.
sure if
Okay.
it's basically a chamfered edge or eased edge.
Yeah, because I think in the town, throughout the town, that would be,
Sure.
asked
Yeah.
for, because it's, I mean,
And generally, what you're seeing is history. It's the very long history of having wear and tear. People climbing up over it.
Right.
Yeah.
Just years and years of use. A lot of that stuff started out with chiseling or some manufacturer that maybe didn't have the sharper edge
Yeah,
that
it's
you
an
see on
old,
the
it's an
the
old
stuff
world
that's-
technique, I would guess, because,
It's just, no, it's not as manufactured,
right.
Yeah.
right, as it
Yeah.
can be today.
Yeah.
And that's why you're not seeing that.
Can I add one point on that? And this speaks to the aesthetic, Rob. I've spent more time than I care to admit looking at these curves. And it's an important topic, and I'm not diminishing that. I just mean I've spent a lot of time walking around looking at this specific topic. One of the things that is the aesthetic that becomes unappealing anywhere else but in a historic setting is how machined it is. The other is the regularity. That's part of it, is that it's machined, so it's so regular.
Sure.
One aspect of the regularity is the segmentation. So if you're putting down all 6, 8 foot sections, you develop a pattern where if you look at a lot of the sidewalks around the town, in part because different sidewalks were maintained or repaired at different times,
Sure.
and pieces were put in, using different size segments makes a tremendous difference on the perception. I just asked you to consider that, because I know you probably have bought the lineal footage you need, but in areas that are perhaps significant but not contributing, even using the chisel type or a more less manufactured type of granite, not having segments that are not all the same length, and I'm not saying we order them odd, I'm just suggesting that if perhaps they were 4 foot lengths, you see a lot of areas where there's a whole bunch of 4 foot, a couple of 6 and an 8, and then it's a whole bunch of 4, and it just adds to the sense, I believe, the perception of it not being this long, straight. Yes, sir.
No, but I'm gonna follow up on that.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's, you get the point, it's,
When you finish,
Well, I'm just gonna say, when you had mentioned about when you're pulling up the granite curbstones,
Yeah.
the existing ones, and they snap, there's examples here of snapped curbstones, which basically break up that kind of strict rhythm that was
Yeah.
probably there before. And now you have a snapped one, so you just lay it back in, and now you got another seam
So
where you
you-
wouldn't ordinarily.
Originally, they
have.
might have
But
come
it's-
all in the same length, but it's over time,
I
it's broken.
almost guarantee that they were all
Yeah.
the
Well,
same
that's-
length.
that's
when they
with
did
a
a
lot of
particular
stuff.
project
Yeah.
at a time.
When they moved out of alignment because they weren't setting concrete, the plow whacked
Oh.
the end of it and
Chipped it.
shattered,
Yeah.
shattered it, like could have shattered on a seam,
Mhm.
and that's why they're sitting there as
You
they
like
are.
that shattered look.
Yeah.
I do too.
So the seam will stay, the seam will still be.
Diane,
I would like to see this not just on Washington Street, but on all the streets in the old historic district, downtown. Liberty Street, India Street. They all need to be that consistency of the older stone, I think, rather than, like what's gone down on Straight Wharf. So, and I think that Steve is right on the unevenness
yeah.
of the curbstones will make such a difference. That's the picture that we all need to stick with,
Mhm.
is to make these streets and sidewalks fit in and look as if they have been there for some time, not that they're neat and tidy. And people who fall, who they say people fall downtown, they fall on those sharp curbstones. They get a lot more hurt than they do
Oh, sure.
on a dulled one,
Yeah.
so it's important for that also.
Okay. Well, oh, Kevin, yes.
Yeah, Kevin Huster, 83 Main. I have a couple of comments on this. I very much echo your comment about the size lengths, I think would make a difference. I would, on this project, I would like to see them hold out the Wilkes Square little detailing. I don't think that
Wilkes
should,
Square being the triangle,
the
right?
little triangle
Yeah.
monument piece, I don't think that should be rendered in brand new stone. And I think it should have a little more time to look at that piece. I think it's I think it's been neglected over time, and this seems like a quick fix that maybe could be thought out more. The other point I'd like to make is, I really don't think that the logo, or that the Lego block pattern blocks that go in at the intersections are appropriate at all in the downtown. I know they're not showing here, but my sense is that Complete Streets will call for those, and I just don't think they're appropriate. And I would just add to that while this is not Beacon Hill, there are not those Lego blocks in front of the State House. So until they get them there, I don't think we need them here. So those are the couple points I'd like to make, and
Thank you, Kevin.
thank you for bringing it here.
Can I follow up question on that?
Yeah, sure.
Rob, is there an alternative material that you, in your experience, or that might be allowed under a variance? You know, we have the rumble strips.
We're talking about the
Lego
warning
blocks.
strips?
Yeah, it's like Belgian
Honestly,
blocks.
I would give credit to Mike Burns for being able to find this alternative material from the stuff that you'll see on Milestone Road, the state project, which is plastic panels. I mean,
Oh,
it's
right.
Where do I
that's
see those on
cast
Milestone?
into, they'll be at the handicap accessible ramps to the bus stops that are on the safety improvements going in.
Oh.
They started out being yellow, and then they got away from that.
Yeah,
But
so
I-
the newest ones up there are brick red. So
Uh-huh.
they blend as best as they can. But the point is that they're supposed to have, by code, they're supposed to have a visual
Right,
deference so
distinction.
that, so
We're
that you
aware.
can actually see.
But I think it's important to point out that we are not required to do that. That's a policy that the selectmen set up, but the policy also allows, for the local historic districts to regulate it. So it's like anybody else who comes in with a code, we can find a way around that.
Supersede it.
Like I said, we don't have it in front of the State House. I don't think we need it on Nantucket. So,
One thing I have mentioned to Kevin in the past is, and I definitely understand as much as I can about what he sees and appreciates. I think when we start getting a little bit deeper into the discussions of sidewalk improvements in the core, that is more than appropriate. I think, now we're talking about specific locations and let's call it their historic significance to everything. What we just did, or finishing from Town Pier to Coffin Street, is not what I would say is equal to Main Street or.
That was kind of what Stephen was saying
Sure.
earlier, is
So-
that we have to sort of create a hierarchy
Yep.
within, yeah.
And so I think along the same lines of what has been done along Easy Street and Straight Wharf, to get it into as much of handicap accessible compliance as we can without needing a waiver, then I would say that's great. But if we get to a situation where we can do the same job in brick without necessarily putting in the detectable warning bricks, which are made, by the way, by the same exact manufacturer, so it still has the same colors, it's not like outlandish and mismatching.
Oh, like the yellow one.
And so I guess the point is that it could be called out as not being distinct enough to satisfy the letter of the code even, that it should be, to alert a sight impaired person to know that it's actually there. So in those instances, what I'm saying is that we may not install those and simply wait for someone to.
Write a letter.
Call it.
well,
Yeah, we
my
can-
understanding is
go
that they're not so much for sight impaired as they're for people who are gonna be with a cane or a stick to be able to tell
Oh,
the
so like
difference.
a texture.
Like a difference in
It's
texture.
it is.
And I've seen some places in similar areas where there have just been, grooves that have been cut. It's been I think what it is, yes, it matches in color and all of that, but it's a texture and a manufactured form that would not have come from the era that
Absolutely.
HDC is supposed to be judging
Oh,
its
I
patterns
think
from.
we all agree on
And-
that.
We totally agree
Yeah,
that it's
and-
not a form that you're gonna see anywhere
And
else.
I just don't think anybody's gonna come and penalize us or write tickets about this. I don't think it's at that level of issue for enforcement. And I think it is an important thing, and one of the reasons is it's important to have this board here, and because there's a lot of things that are incomplete streets that really don't fit on Nantucket, and it's important for this board to look at those and understand which ones you want and which ones you don't.
Right.
Otherwise, we will end up with wide sidewalks and
Yeah.
warning signs and all kinds of stuff that are great on the Cape, but not here, so. Anyway, I didn't mean to
Thank
take
you,
any more of your
Kevin.
time.
No, I appreciate that.
So to Kevin's point with respect to these transitional pieces, did I understand you correctly that the executive decision at this point is to defer their installation unless called out?
Actually, the opposite. For this specific project, they are planned to go in
Okay,
on either end and at the actual, the end of the ADA ramp at the Legion. However, again, I'm here to get feedback.
well, let me ask you a couple questions. I mean, this is important, so I'm gonna ask the questions. Are these, I'm familiar with the aesthetic and the visual of the product, but are these
Yeah.
set in a concrete pad?
No.
Or are they are themselves
They're
something that
set
could be
just like
removed?
another brick.
What,
Oh, so there is an opportunity that if a variance were had for transition with respect to using some other material that is era appropriate, that these could come out?
We're talking about literally the difference between a standard brick that we use
Yeah.
and the same exact standard brick, just with cast, truncated domes cast into the brick
That's a
itself.
so-called Lego. It looks like a little Lego brick.
right, like the one
Is
downstairs.
it as
in front of
distinct as the one downstairs as you come in that are,
Those
or are
two.
they more?
They look identical to the other bricks. They just have truncated domes on the tops.
So I'm not familiar with that product, and
Yeah,
I'm thinking
we can take a
of,
look at them and Washington Street. We probably have them in the
There's some
pictures.
at the end of your
In the
street
picture pile?
where they cross.
You
just
do?
below.
no,
The
that-
pictures
that's a
are,
different
he has the
product.
pictures.
It
Okay.
is?
Let me see.
Would you mind?
If you wanna go through those,
Yeah.
let me see if I can pull it off on my.
Rob, which intersection would it be at, do you know?
It would be
There's
just
only one
opposite,
copy, right?
Coffin Street.
Yeah, but what
Opposite the
about
lobster
the
trap.
Okay.
American Legion? What do you, are you not using them there?
There would be those at the edge of pavement, from the parking space,
Oh,
I do believe.
I just want to get an idea.
But my point is that what we could do is simply leave them off if the board, is really, adamant.
Well, that's what I just asked
So,
you.
no,
board is
Rob, I'm
pretty
gonna
adamant.
have you guess what you think that our preference would be as a board.
I don't see them in this.
We'd
bid.
love to have you keep them off.
Yeah, but I would like to see what they look like too. I mean, I can go and look. I don't need to waste everyone's
They're down in
time.
front of the club car, and you'll see how they ought to be replaced with the old ones back by the club.
With the old ones. And the club car setting,
Yeah, they're in there.
What do you mean the club car setting?
you're suggesting, Kevin, they need to be replaced in that particular setting or just period in the OHD?
Well, you know, that's the base of.
I don't think they should be anywhere here.
Okay,
but
I
they're-
just wanted to make sure I was clear and,
Yeah, but they
what
are
your comment
there
was.
now on the new part of the sidewalk.
Okay,
All right.
well,
Here they are,
I don't think that,
but, I hear what you're saying.
it's any
Share them
surprise
over.
that, we would prefer not to have them.
so if push came to shove and you hadn't installed them and there was a
In fact,
federal legislation
yeah,
against us. we
just
could-
so you know how they're installed, wherever they're planned to go, we put regular bricks
regular brick.
there, and then they literally just
Pop
replace them,
them
so
out.
Oh.
they're part of the pattern.
Uh-huh.
So we literally just pull out the
Okay.
standard bricks and put those
Okay.
in.
Thank you.
We could do that.
That's.
All right,
Mr.
yes.
Chair, I would point out in my experiences down there, taking the photographs and walking around with Rob, as far as the granite curbing,
Yes.
I think there's a big difference of contrast the contrast from cobblestone to that granite, from asphalt to the granite. It's not as, when you look at the cobblestone streets and the sharp granite, you can really tell there's a big contrast there in my opinion. as far
Visual
as-
contrast?
Yeah, it's, it's two different stones really. that kind of stick it. You know, one looks more modern than
Yeah.
having the
Yeah.
cobblestones, than having the actual asphalt and then the granite curbing. It's blends in a lot more with the asphalt.
Well,
and
thank you for that. I think that what we're trying to do, and again, I feel like this is maybe the third time I'm going to be saying this. You know, it's an aesthetic thing, and it's also a practical thing, because those
Right.
sharp curbs, I've heard from a lot of people, they'll be, backing in, doing a parallel park,
Right.
get too close with the rear wheel, and it punctures their wheel.
Well,
I think
summer's
my
coming
daughter
up.
did it.
It's going to be all blue license plates, right? They can break it in for us.
So
Well,
you
I think
run
that
a
simply
grinder
easing
down
the
there?
edge is going to go, it's going to advance the
Yes.
process. It will
Right.
jumpstart the process
push
of,
it.
of
It's not.
patination
Right.
of the curbing, so.
It's just
Yeah.
in that regard, my observation was down behind the Dreamland,
Yeah.
where that was all new granite curbing, Rob. Behind the Dreamland.
Easy Street.
Easy Street.
Yeah,
I mean, looking at that was just a year ago, and looking at it now, there must have been a lot of cars that bumped into it, but it's chipped
got-
off. It's
It's
Well-
plain plowed.
I never thought
yeah,
about
yeah.
the plow
I was
thing.
telling
just
Rob
run the plow
he could
down.
run
More
the
snow,
street
yeah,
sweeper
more
down along
plows.
it, and it would dirty it up. And
Yeah, actually, Mr. Welch was just suggesting that I run the plow blade all the way down.
Not too heavy on the
Why,
hand, but run the plow blade
At the
down.
crosswalks, why can't they put the bricks on their sides, like, instead of,
For the crosswalks,
yeah,
we do.
so they're, because that would be a texture that,
It is, it's texture and it's a visual change to let people know. We did it particularly at the South Beach Street truck alley, because it almost looks like a sidewalk, but it's not. It's the driveway for the steamship.
yeah.
So it was critical that we put them on edge through there to give the pedestrians the idea that it's different than the sidewalk surface. So that's the distinction that we're using back and forth.
Can you use that instead of the Legos in this
Yeah,
particular
that's kind of what
project?
I'm suggesting.
Oh, for
That's what.
for the
Instead of
transition.
leaving it and letting.
You know, that's a thought for the future, but the thing is, it's back to what Kevin pointed out, it's not just the visual for the sight impaired, it's also for the people
Tactile.
with a stick for a tactile.
Yeah.
Because you can actually feel them too if you're really paying attention, and it's sort of to direct you, that you're entering a space that's no longer protected.
Right.
Just because you're using a cane doesn't mean that you're a dumb person who can't decide whether the ramp is usable or not. Being a handicapped person is something that I am getting more and more aware of. Is for some reason they think, oh, poor person doesn't know what they're doing. So you have to give a handicapped person more
Credit.
credit that they can discern a handicap ramp.
I don't think
Thank
anyone's
you.
suggesting, but thank
To
you.
tripping them up.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay, Rob, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
We look forward to seeing the product.
So motion to approve subject to the plow blade, IT.
I know you are, but it's very informative. To
So,
look at the new curbing and what's happened to it over a couple of years.
Well, I appreciate all the feedback, and I particularly am interested in talking more about the memorial area. I think the focus really is the sidewalks, but certainly the Legion is going to be very interested in the future of the memorial.
Well, so Kevin had a really interesting point there, and I couldn't help but think of, when he was talking about that, about the Rotary in Sconset,
I was
and
just
all
gonna-
that brand new
Yeah.
granite.
I
Now
voted
again,
against that,
I
by the
look
way.
at that, and that wasn't you, right? That was another. That was.
No, that was
no, it
Karen.
was pre,
It was the Wisconsin Advisory Board.
yeah,
Um,
I,
Everyone voted, everyone
Yeah, but I
that,
mean, did you install
everyone that
that?
participated in the previous discussions voted in favor of it.
But
yeah, I remember.
was that your
distinctly.
install or was
It
that?
was.
Oh, it was,
Yes.
okay. No, so I think this is a case of, like, the granite is all brand new, and it had to be machined, so it's all new surface. So there really wasn't a good way around that, but I look at it and I say, well, in 10 years it's gonna be all settled in,
Grounding.
but right now it's not.
Well, once it's all thrown
Grinding.
over and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
He's dead. Why couldn't
So-
they tell he's dead?
Right, so, if you could give further consideration to that little triangle, I think that would,
Yeah,
just that,
in
you know,
fact-
it's not a lot of material.
No, it's not, and
Obviously.
that's another,
It's
that's a
a-
piece where we might be able to,
Splurge.
well, I'm gonna find out what
that
further
actually
opinions
is,
are on that.
Yeah.
Maybe you can put some
good
antique,
looking at.
Yeah, we might.
Would any-
That triangle
just while
is
Rob-
good looking at.
Yeah.
in
just
Well,
while Rob's here,
traffic.
It's a monument.
Yeah, but
It
it needs to
deserves
be
to-
pumped up a
to-
little.
on the monument,
Yeah, it
just while
needs,
Rob's here,
it needs
is
a
there
little-
anyone who would be adverse, just, I know this is, we're not voting, to using, if it were to work out through channels, using reclaimed antique granite that's been used, antique granite curb from other areas of the island?
I give that,
I wouldn't
you know,
mind,
2
but-
thumbs up.
Okay, I just wanted to get, because he's here,
Absolutely.
getting a temperature and,
And
other
it's kind of
folks weigh in.
distinct from a regular sidewalk because it's
Yeah.
a triangle that's actually housing a monument.
yeah, and when I say that, I
That
would-
whole
would-
area is named after that guy.
It goes without saying that it would be
Square.
consistent
Oh, yeah.
material.
Looks fair.
Yeah.
Well, I
Okay.
appreciate
Thank you.
the opportunity and look forward to the continued discussion.
Thanks for
Thank
coming
you
in,
very
Rob.
much, Rob. Okay, moving right along, we have, now we're on to old business.
Moving right along.
No,
That's
no.
one
I'm not on any of the old business, I'm going home.
Okay, so I want to defend
Now,
the
what
time
am
that
I
we
on
just
here?
spent here.
No,
You
no,
know,
I
this
just,
is, this is the first
Please
step
stay
in
at some
what
things
is
you
going to, you know, it needs a lot of thought.
This isn't no stinking fence
Yeah, this is not just a little.
that we
fence.
spent an hour
Okay,
on.
so, first up, 17 Sherburne Turnpike. Okay,
Photography and some photos for you guys.
Mr. Hedden,
Yes.
would you be able to tell us,
Thanks.
because we're now in the old business,
So I
give-
definitely be interested.
This was not, has not been
not
opened
been,
yet.
okay, so,
some photos.
I think I'm on a lot of these.
I've lost track of, which associate we're gonna have to.
I think they put it on.
Did you do signs? I did signs. You did consent with conditions. So it's me.
Okay. So, hi.
Hey,
Stephen's your associate on the 3 projects. that we have in front of us.
buckle up. We're not serving crackers this evening.
Now, where's the cheese and crackers?
Okay.
The
So-
Stop and Shop's on strike.
I know, I
No
haven't eaten for
snacks?
a week.
I heard someone chain themselves to the door.
What?
Wow.
This is how rumors.
Full of nonsense, and Diane's there every day. And they go along.
Okay. Tori, would you like to just sort of walk
Sure.
us through?
So this is a house, cabana, and pool that we've already built. I've given you guys pictures of what it looks like built in addition to the drawings, so you can get a visual that way. I've also submitted a bunch of pictures of the proposed lot that we're building this new round of the same building on, off of Sherburne Turnpike. And I brought the topography maps just so you could see specifically these larger folded piles that I brought in addition underneath TJ's photos there.
This is
I
way
think
down in a
it's
swale.
Way
right?
down in a swell,
Yeah.
exactly, and it's not only.
No, this is different.
Yeah, there's, where is it folded? Val might have it right there, Diane. No, the topography map in your left hand, Val. Just to show you, the pictures do a good job of showing you how, covered it is in the street. You go down and way
Yeah, I'm
back.
very familiar with this site.
Yeah, and then the house itself, before you hit anything else, is 200 plus feet off the property line, and then the topography map will show you that the property line is an additional 60 feet off the road because of a way
So,
for sure.
Tori,
This is way back here.
basically this is a repeat of this house?
Rebuilding the exact same house.
And where's this?
This one is on 2 Dartmouth Lane, which is a
Okay.
small road
All right.
off of Delaney.
So you only do this so that we can see what
Yeah, just so you get a
the finished
visual as well.
product is?
Yeah,
Okay.
That's a hike from the future garage to the house.
correct.
The garage is right up on Sherburne?
The garage is tucked at the bottom of the hill, actually. If you look at this first photo, the garage would be down the hill about 80 to 100 feet and then all the way to the left from the road, current road.
No.
What's
There's Sherburne
deceiving
and
here,
there's the
yeah, if
garage.
you look at the topography map, you'll see it better. The property line starts 60 feet off of the pavement of Sherburne
Oh, that's the
Turnpike.
topo map.
Yeah, right, folded right in front of Abby.
This?
Yes.
Oh.
See that front part off of Sherburne?
Oh, my word.
So the property line actually starts 60
Jeepers
feet off the road.
creepers.
So this is the
all
road.
town land right here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the pavement right there.
Okay, all right. Thank you for
Yeah.
clearing that up. Okay, so,
And then we're 200 feet plus from the property line.
all right.
All of the existing vegetation would stay.
Hey, Tori,
Mm-hmm.
can I see this for a second? So this is the existing.
That's a
topo.
brand new topography, yeah.
Right, so, brand new topography or existing?
We just did it this week. Well, no, it's existing, but it's not an old topography map. I'm trying to say it's current measurements.
Right, but, oh, I see, so you have taken into account the topo on this?
I believe he did a little bit, I'm not sure.
No, it's there.
Okay.
It's not portrayed as being on a flat site, which we know it's not going
Right.
to be. It's sort of built into the hill.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so we can see that. See,
It's right
that's,
across
No,
from where Phil Reed.
Mr. Reed is, yeah.
okay.
Oh, he's 14, Sherburne Turnpike.
Directly across the street from his house.
There's a couple photos where you can see who's driving.
So I guess I only have one question. What is the finished floor height proposed?
On the first floor. I don't have that, but I can get that for you.
So is it gonna be on the top of the hill? Is it gonna be,
I think it's gonna end up
It's
being
9 feet.
set
ceiling
in,
height.
set into
First
the
floor.
hill.
just because there's not a, and it's not a fault,
Yeah.
but there's not a hardscape plan, so it's hard to see if there's any retainage.
So we will be back with a proper hardscape plan with a lot of topography details, because
Right.
there's gonna be steps up to the house, there might be retaining walls.
Okay,
So that's a work in progress that will be presented to you guys.
so understood, but
Yeah.
without that, that's where the question comes from is,
Right.
is because we don't see where there's retainage. I'm trying to figure out.
Exactly, how
Are
we're gonna
we,
do it.
this side of the house is at 32 feet?
Roughly, yep.
Is it going to be the grade raised to 32 feet across? Or is this gonna be a plateau created with retainage? What's
As
the,
far as I know, we're gonna set into the hill, and then I'm not sure what their solution is for what your question just voiced right there on.
I'm certain that
side.
they're doing a cut and fill arrangement.
yeah, that's my only, that would be my, it's a nice appropriate design. I have no concerns other than I just wanna be clear what height we're approving it at relative to
Okay,
existing.
that's a really good question. And so now this brings up something else that came up at the select board meeting, the application. We rarely review the application, so, which I think is somewhat of a problem. So right now, there's a category on this application that calls for grade change on the 4 elevations. This isn't filled out at all, okay? So, to Stephen's point, what we're gonna need is we're gonna need to have you superimpose existing and proposed topo, right? Right now, we're just looking at the existing, it's
Yeah.
gonna be altered in some way. We'll need to have a topo plan that shows the house, shows the amenities, the pool, whatever, the garage, and how the topo will change. And on this application, we're gonna want you to say, well, you're cutting in on the north side and you're filling on the south side by 30
Such and
inches or
such.
whatever it happens to be. And that should be on this application, okay?
Yep.
So thank you, Stephen. Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Diane?
Yep, on the plans, front door is facing east,
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
facing onto the street. On the second floor, those 2 mulled windows up there, that's a dormer.
Correct.
Right
Yeah.
here. It looks like. Oh, right here.
You're on the east elevation, right,
Yeah.
Diane?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And on the lower one, those windows underneath those mold windows, what is that room? Is that,
That's a triple 6/6.
well, I would like to see those separated and evened out underneath the mold on the top. I think you have, on your north elevation, which is not impossible to see as you come down Sherburne Turnpike there, the windows on the first floor are mold, and then you have all the, on the grade, on this west elevation, is it a flat grade or is it's going up on the right? Is it been, flattened?
The west, no, nothing's been flattened, nothing's been touched at this point. So the way these grade changes are showing is somewhat what will be happening. It does go up to the right when you're looking at the west elevation and down to the left like that, currently.
I think the west elevation is probably be the hardest one to see,
Correct.
from that. And I don't know what you're going to do to the vegetation if you're going to put the pool up there. It's gonna open up the place to a view going out Kendrick.
The existing vegetation around the perimeter of the property will stay as is for the most part. We don't need to touch any of it. It's already cleared and cleaned by those initial front photos from the street. Once you get down there, it's all open.
It's already cleared, so
Yeah,
you
it's
can
already
go and
open.
look and see.
Yep, absolutely.
There's a little path that they brush cut down to this site, and it really, really dips down off the road
Yeah.
substantially. Yeah, I think that at the end of the day, once the house is built, there's not gonna be any way you're gonna be able to see the pool or the cabana,
I agree.
or the house. I
Because
think.
they're
I think
all
you'll
the
see
way down
I
to
think
the-
you'll glimpse the house, but it's not gonna be, it's so far away and it's so set so far down with respect to the road that, okay. Anyway, Diane, continue, sir.
Okay, well, I would like, I'm gonna go take a look at it to get what the land looks like
Yeah,
out there. And I was saying it's right across from Phil Reed's
Directly across.
house, which I know
Yep.
very well, so.
if Diane's going out to see it,
Yeah.
one thing, well, I was just gonna suggest that you put up, two little markers where the property line starts.
Sure.
Because I was completely unaware that most of that drive that I'm looking at is
Yeah.
actually town property.
Okay.
So that'll kind of, enhance the idea that
visual.
this is set further back
Yeah.
from the road than we might think otherwise.
Okay, you got it.
Thank you, Val.
I think the house is appropriate. I would share his concern about, the grade change, and maybe could we just have a poll?
You want
Two
the high pole
polls
on
or
the main house?
something to see?
The main ridge?
Yeah.
So maybe I should make a motion that you should have a view.
Okay, but can I hold that motion just to hear from Abby?
You know, I don't have anything to add.
Okay, so, there's a motion on the table to, view this with some height poles. Was that two at the main ridge, on either end of the main ridge?
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And can we track the pool? Because I think that, as I said before, I'm pretty sure, not pretty sure, 100% sure, that once the house is built, you will not be able to see the pool or the cabana from a public way. I think that will be borne out when you go see the site. So should we hold the other two to track?
Yeah.
All right. What
Sounds
will
good.
continue to?
Motion to hold
Good stuff.
2 and 3 to track.
Thank you, Val. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thanks, Tori. Is that it for you?
I'll be back after school.
Okay. William? Now, we have a, what's our board on this one? I know Abby's on it. I know I'm on it.
I'm on it.
You are on it?
I have Pole, Coombs, and Camp.
I'm not on it.
This is from,
No, you weren't. But if it was up to me, you would.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so. If
Can I
no-
ask you a question before we start? On the garage.
go ahead. Sorry.
On the garage, are those the brand new shingles that are green?
Those are the ones that they stopped
That-
making after we put that roof up.
Oh,
I
okay.
can't believe it.
Okay.
Tragedy.
Yeah.
How many years ago was that?
Last year.
Because they look
So,
great.
I was actually gonna ask if it's my turn to ask for another week, because I may have found a source and I'm waiting for a sample that I don't have yet. Because I had to. Got some advice on some other possible sources, and
Great.
I didn't get to order the samples until this week, so they're not here.
You mean green 3-tab?
Yeah,
Oh
Oh
my gosh,
my
that would be
God.
heaven.
yeah.
Well, we would gladly give you another week if that's what
Okay,
we're.
a
gonna
motion
get.
amongst
to
friends.
hold for,
give you
more information.
Thanks for waiting around to tell us that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the motion?
We're holding for more information.
All
But I
right,
did learn something about curbing in the meantime.
yeah.
And like
More than
just
you ever wanted to know
briefly,
about curbing.
You know, with granite, the way to it's really easily tooled with heat, and you can do all the stuff that's already cut.
And we're
It'll
not
all be done
asking for
easily.
like a rounded thing, we just wanna kinda ease the edge a
You
little
can
bit.
That's
flame it.
actually a good point.
You could flame it with a torch. You could walk right down. You could do almost all of it in a couple
Yeah.
of days.
Thanks, Will, we'll see you in a week. So that,
You
was
have
that
to
motion?
if you want to do it.
Aye. What?
Oh, I should have waited for the vote. Sorry.
Hey,
Oh, I'm not
sorry.
on it.
When, did you expect to get those samples?
What Tuesday? Probably.
Easter.
Like Thursday this week?
Yeah, but I don't know if we're doing an actual meeting.
So maybe just hold for representation,
Yeah,
keep it on the agenda.
Okay, cause, well then, next Tuesday is new business. I'm gone next
Do I
Tuesday.
put it on for Thursday and I'll just.
Yeah,
be
could
in
we
touch
do
with
that?
John
Just
if
put
it's
it
not
on
here?
in case he happens to miraculously get those samples and we could
Yeah.
just put this to bed?
for next Tuesday, is that?
No,
I think there's
Thursday.
gonna
Oh,
be
yeah,
a
yeah,
meeting
Because I'm not gonna
Thursday.
be here next Tuesday.
I'm gonna meet Thursday though.
What's
They-
that?
They're not gonna come.
There's gonna be a meeting this
Oh my
Thursday.
I
god.
don't know.
They're not coming.
50-50 whether they be here.
I'm not gonna be here.
Well,
Yeah,
we
no,
know
they're
what
not
you
gonna
would like. If you can't be here Tuesday,
Well, it's just that you won't have a quorum. I know.
Yeah, you're
We're
only
3
down to
people.
3.
1, 2, 3, maybe Val or
Can
whatever.
can anybody mull in on this
I was
one?
gonna say.
Not if
Kathy.
it's Thursday.
No, but if we did it
No,
next Tuesday.
in general.
Would you
Yeah.
know in on it?
I
really
can,
wanted to
but
stay
I'm
on
just
this
saying.
too.
I know.
Both of the
Then we go bring that meeting.
Well, there's only 3
was,
people
I
on
wanted
it, so
to
you
do
kinda all gotta be
Right.
there, right?
They're still out there.
No.
Unless she volunteers.
Hey, Will. Sorry, don't go away.
Okay.
Because I had said at the last meeting that the green, I was in favor of keeping the green, even if it meant having to use architectural. And Abby just told me that she was gonna be okay with voting architectural green through.
I went out there today
Now.
and the difference between the sun out and a foggy, cloudy day is like, it's like black and white. And I saw, you still have them up there and I thought they looked okay, so,
Now,
yeah.
all right, so let me just put this on the table. I think we can trust Will to continue his research. And you know that our preference obviously would be to use 3-tab, and it sounds
As
like
is the client's.
your client's preference is to do 3-tab, but if we want to just move this along, I think that we could have a vote and approve the architecturals, just so that we have sort of a, you know, a
With the option to
default.
use 3-tab.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So then you
Is
have
that
to come back
okay? And
with a
then we
revision.
don't have to worry about quorums and
Without
all
seeing
that
the
stuff.
color.
Is the color the same, the color's the same as the architectural?
Yeah, as the 3-tab.
Well, he
Oh,
would-
you mean,
It's a Certainty Chateau 3-tab, right?
He would
That's
bring
up there.
them
It's the
into
sample
us,
you've
he
seen.
knows what we're looking for.
Chateau?
Chateau.
Chateau's just
Did I
what
say
they call
chateau?
their architectural line. It's
Oh.
what they don't call them
are
architectural.
you okay with that?
Yeah, if, I'm sure he would bring them in and say, this is the green. What happens if it was a
Yeah.
pea green?
Chartreuse.
Yeah,
I will say that if the architecturals were to be approved tonight, I'm still pursuing 3-tab.
Right.
And I would bring a color sample of
I-
anything I
I
think that's
would
right to be
trust
approval to
his-
make sure.
Opinion of what he brought to us. If he said this was good and what he could get, yes, I would not have a problem with it. I think I was out there again and there was somebody who was, just happened to be going along and wondered what we were doing, staring at the roof. And they brought up a very good point, that on the architecturals, which is a rough finish, with the
Yeah.
amount of roof that's showing there. And then right below it, you have 3 or 4 different shaped shingles,
Yeah,
some round, some
sidewall shingles, yeah,
scoopy and all the rest of it.
right.
That it makes for a busy area, so I think all that does is back up. I thought that the 3-tab would be a softer application than the architecturals, but I think that a green is important, so.
So why don't we hold for information and,
And
but,
approve the
but you know that,
Well, what I was gonna suggest is approving the architecturals
Right,
with the understanding that if his pursuit of the green 3-tab comes through, it would be a benefit for us, but it would also be a benefit for his client who prefers the 3-tab anyway, as long as the color match is good.
yeah.
Okay, so, would one
So I
of the
make that,
two
I make that motion, that we approve the 3-tab architectural in green,
Mhm. Okay,
and the applicant will continue to study.
okay, I like that motion. Now,
So-
what do you say there?
You could make a motion to have approve the architectural or the 3-tab green with, final review by the HDC chairman.
Right, and then that way he doesn't have to pay for a revision fee.
That guy's
Yeah.
kind of unreliable.
Okay, that's good, that's good. Are you okay with that?
Yep.
And if it's at all in doubt, I'll certainly bring the shingles and show you all. Wow, that's good news. Okay,
you for the extra
so is that your motion,
Yes.
Diane? Okay, all those in favor of Diane's motion?
Aye.
No
Great.
worries.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
We're all in this together.
Good luck
Yeah.
with that one.
Okay, Wiley Collins. This is his famous, Gothic revival,
Yes.
right? Have
Last
you
time we
been-
met.
Have you been in before for this?
Yes, so
Yeah.
last time we spoke, you guys I didn't have enough photos, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure what the
Moving
board
on,
is
yeah.
before we move too far ahead.
Is Paul, Welch, and Watterson.
Oh, boy, okay.
We were Thursday
All
afternoon.
these short boards. Isn't that's one of my
So I
favorite
think, Steve, what
houses.
you were looking for was just how do we distinguish with some more photos
Yes,
what's in the back versus what's on the main ridge?
yes.
Everything they're looking at looks like the first round. Do you have the second package,
Yeah, this
Put
is
together?
very familiar.
John?
Yeah, I thought you just submitted new photos, so.
Oh, there, that's the second package with the floor plan on front. I tried, it wasn't as distinct as you wanted to, but I've given you a floor plan showing the location of both. And then I've given you the photos of the 2 different areas, one being the main. I know.
is this a brand new application?
No.
No,
What's
no,
on the-
there's, I am,
Watterson,
Steven,
Watterson,
and
right?
TJ.
Oh, so
And this
Diane's not
is-
on it?
So that's
No.
the main ridge,
We
and
can't
really
fight
what you
for
can see
chimney.
is that the grate in the ceiling and that red chimney is the original chimney on the main mast. And
I'm
then
lost. What are we looking at?
the one in the way back is, the last 2 pages of photos is the one that we're looking to demolish only to the ridge line, which is the brick old wood stove almost,
In the secondary
in
structure.
the secondary shed in the back.
No, I know which chimney you want to take down.
Oh, I was just looking for clarification.
He was looking for clarification between the 2 locations, last time we met.
Oh, right.
And he
because
suggested I take some interior photos.
It was difficult to sort of figure it out from the photograph.
Exterior.
Right, this, the NHA image shows it.
Little fuzzy.
Yeah.
The perspective was a
yeah.
little blocked.
Yeah.
And it just was, quite sure, was that something that already came down, or is that the chimney we're talking
Exactly.
about, or?
Okay, comments? Anybody ready?
I think, motion to approve.
I'm gonna hold your
Okay.
motion just so that we can hear from Stephen.
Yeah, I think the applicant has documented that it's not the chimney on the contributing structure, so I'm fine with it. I think it's
Yeah,
appropriate.
that's pretty plain.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is a motion on the table to approve as submitted. All those in favor? Aye. Aye.
Thank you very much.
Okay, there you go. Val?
TJ, you
The
are
one
for
just-
North Water?
Yes, ma'am.
Keep smelling fried chicken.
I know.
Yeah, did you smell
Smells like the rotisserie chicken.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like a Kentucky fried, it's more like,
No, it's like the Stop and Shop
Yeah.
rotisserie chicken.
somebody didn't wash their
Oh,
hands.
you were on this, Abby. That's the green shingle.
This is Paul Coombs, Camp, and Welch.
I wasn't here for the first meeting, but I got minutes and.
Old Coombs Camp and Welsh.
So one of the biggest changes is we've lowered it by a foot. Originally, the plan that came before you was going to be modular, but they can't get the crane on Cherry Street. So
Oh.
that's no longer in motion.
That's
So
good.
that took a foot out of
Nice.
the front section.
Yeah.
Made the dormer smaller, changed the front porch from a sort of portico
Uh-huh. To a
to
shed.
a shed, and changed the front door to a more common type of front door. It has 4 panels and 4 little lights
Yeah.
across.
Yep.
And then the rear L significantly dropped as well. That was all just cathedral. And I actually think that dropped by a few feet. And we used sort of a broken back to complete the space.
Okay.
And I think that was, oh, and changed the windows to 6/6.
Because they were 6/1.
1, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Val. Stephen, that's for you.
How much, can I go?
Yes, please.
It doesn't look like the windows are, how much did they come down by from the original dimensions?
They
They still
didn't.
look kind of big. No, she
No.
said they came
No, I
down.
think.
No, I didn't say change the window
See,
sizes.
see the dormer has a little bit of shingle on the side? She made the dormer smaller. The windows are the same size.
And you wanted the windows to actually get bigger, it says.
Oh, well, now I want them smaller.
Wow.
No, I think they're a good size.
Well, yeah, no, I really think it looks very sweet. What about on the south elevation? Can you bring that broke back ridge down any further, or is there a lot in the way? Is the,
Why, what's your concern with
it
that?
just looks a little, usually the broken back extends a little further down. It looks a little high in the air.
Wonder- She's talking about
Can you
sort of
make
the ratio of actual gable to broken back. If that came up,
Let me see.
Oh,
would
that's
that be
true.
any better like that?
Well,
See,
then we
it
were
makes this
going
part
back
longer and that
to
part shorter.
what I thought I read as a comment because I wasn't here to explain it, but everybody had a concern with the pitch of the rear L, and in fact, it was just half of the gable you were seeing. It wasn't really a shed off the side, so I was trying to eliminate that look. I will say this
Yeah.
is a house at the back of a lot, and it backs up to another lot,
This. See, that used to all be steep.
which is on Bear Street.
Right.
Oh, see.
So I don't
it's-
know how much of that you'll see. There's a two-story house in back of this facing the other street. But I can certainly try a little.
I don't think you're going to see that very much.
No, no. I mean, thank you for reducing the dormers. I think they were heavier before. I wish the windows were a little bit smaller up there, like the next size down, but
Let me see, I might be able to do that. Ruh-roh. I think they're the egress size, so I hesitate to, but wait, if there's some on the sides, I could probably do that.
Yeah, there are.
So yeah, I
Well,
can do
don't-
that.
I got
Well-
some,
Yeah, don't redesign yet.
Okay.
wait
yeah,
till,
I would prefer that. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. Let's see. Diane, are you ready?
yes, definitely. I think it's very cute. I think it will. I think it fits into the space very well. I personally do not think the windows should be smaller because I think that they need the light to get into the room. And they don't look out of proportion to me. So that's it. I'm with what you've done. I think it's good. I don't mind the broken back sort of, and I think it will be hard to see because there's a building directly behind us and then the big one beside it.
Thank you. How about you, Stephen?
I think ironically, the lowering, because of the fact that this is not a modular, the home relates, the primary facade relates less to the structure on the number 10 at the front of the lot, because it's no longer, it doesn't appear as a 1 3/4 story anymore. It looks more like a kind of a cape with a tall ceiling. So I think that the front north elevation on the previous submission of page 2, which shows the taller front facade, is more appropriate
Interesting.
in the setting. And then I think that now that you have lost that 12 inches of height, basically you could put your rafter tails on your platform or on a small built-up plate,
Knee wall, yeah.
and then you could get the height back, and your dormers would be diminished in size a little bit. Because that's the other thing I have a little bit of a concern is that the dormers, I think just the overall size, not necessarily windows, tend to overtake the facade. And I think that if you were able to raise that back up, you might be able to make the dormer, I'm not quite sure how I'm gonna relate that to the,
So sort of make it like an odd salt box-ish? Just raise it in the front, not in the back.
you could do that. I mean, you could probably raise it in the front and the back, and then your dormer heights, the necessity diminishes a little bit. Like they're being absorbed by some of the main roof mass. To me, I want to be clear though, primarily, I believe that much of this is not going to be visible or directly visible. So what's at the rear and the sides, and certainly at the back, at the sides and certainly at the rear, I have no concern about. My concern is primarily with how this relates to the structure directly in front and to the left. Because I think that because the driveway is there in front of this structure, these are gonna read as two homes, although this is set back further. I think that vocabulary will be important to translate from the front to the back. And the design was there and then you made the changes to the dormers, and it may just be that you make the same changes to the dormers on the original front facade height. And you're just changing where your rafter base is sitting. So that's, I mean, I'm not gonna redesign for it.
Let me make sure that I understand what the proposal is. So, how much did it, you said it dropped a foot?
We
The
took
eave.
the second floor plate out.
Right,
It dropped down a foot.
Yep.
so if that were to raise a foot,
Right, so you're getting
Yeah.
more like wall space.
you get like a 1 3/4 story presentation. Like,
Okay, so
Now-
the rafters are sitting on the floor, a plate on the second floor as opposed to,
Oh, I see what he means. But what I don't understand is about the dormers.
The houses along that street are
I gave pictures to everybody. Here.
well, the house
What
is,
Steven's talking about is 10 Cherry. Well,
Yeah.
actually 10 and 5 would both
the
fall
house
in
in
the
front looks
category.
exactly like this.
Like if you look
I know.
at 10 and 5 Cherry here,
Yeah, I
Yes,
think
it's
we're
just
starting
I
to
hate
cherry
see it
pick
go
this.
up a foot.
I think we're getting a little,
yeah, I'm okay.
you know,
I
like,
think it's cute.
yeah, it's adorable. I just wanted the dormers to come down, just the window sides come down a little bit. Otherwise, I think it's back from the road, it's not gonna be that visible. I'm sorry I brought up the
I think
back.
it,
I was bringing up my point regardless.
Oh, okay.
I think it fits into the neighborhood really good.
All right, Stephen, to your point, actually, there's a fair amount of space between the head casings of the first floor windows
Yeah.
and the eave above it,
Right.
you know, probably 2 feet or so, which is kind of, you know, almost like 10 Cherry, not nearly as much as 5 Cherry, but a lot more than some of the other Cherry Street houses. I'm okay with this. So,
Do you want me to make the dormers a different size?
well, you
we
already
already
did make
changed
the
them.
dormers different.
I did, but if the consensus is you'd like those to go down a size, I'm happy
No,
to.
see, I think that you have 2 members that are sort of pulling in opposite directions.
Okay.
Okay,
Because,
so Steve, make that.
I'm not
I'll
making
go
a
with the
motion
one-
on this house.
I make a motion to
No offense.
approve this submitted.
Oh, that's
Okay.
that's a good one.
That's a great.
What is it?
What?
What did you say?
Approve as submitted.
Oh,
Let's see how it goes. All those in favor of Diana's motion?
Aye.
Aye.
You okay, Steve, or are you out?
No, I'm good.
You're good?
I mean,
Okay,
it's not, but I'm not gonna be.
all right. But that was a
Yeah.
good point.
Oh.
I understood what you said. Oh, studio, okay.
oh yeah.
Same, did we hear this?
I think so, and it was to move a window.
All right, let's check it out.
The window had been snug up against the door.
Yeah, we have Paul, Coombs, Camp, and Welch.
Yeah, same board.
Itty bitty.
Yeah, this is,
Oh, yeah. They're really close
What
to
kind of
each other.
flowers?
Yeah, those are geraniums.
Okay,
Those are red geraniums.
all right. Motion to approve.
geraniums approved.
Okay, whose motion was that?
Moi.
Okay. Good,
Aye.
okay. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All right, great.
All right.
19B Waydale.
This one, I just got the revisions from Huntington, so I'm giving them to you now.
All right.
Per,
Board on this one?
We have Ray Paul,
Yeah,
Diane Coombs,
yeah,
Abby
Roll
Camp,
yeah.
and TJ Watterson.
All right.
And I,
So-
just for the record, Stephen Welsh recused.
Not, yeah, but I'm a neighbor. So I represent.
So if you're a neighbor,
Yeah.
yeah. you're the neighbors.
so they took 5 inches out of the height. more, made the front porch a tad bigger, and also increased the pitch on the porch so that it snugged up to the windows above it to get rid of some of that wall space. And I believe that was some of the requests made, or the requests made.
When you say you make the porch larger,
Yeah.
oh, I see.
Slightly,
Yeah, it pushed closer to the four windows on the right-hand side.
just to give it a little
Slightly
more,
larger.
yeah.
Okay. And steeper pitch on the,
Square around post.
Wasn't that a square? That was what you thought would be? Okay.
all right, Stephen, do you have anything to comment?
Oh, and I gave pictures to you guys of,
Contact,
yeah.
okay. Steve, as a neighbor, do you have any comments to make?
Yes, I would like to say that I think the changes and the design are appropriate, and I hope they enjoy their home for a long time.
Thank you.
I appreciate the
All
changes
right.
too.
I don't know how to say that Bulgarian though.
I don't either.
Diane, where are you on this one?
I'm fine.
Okay, then it sounds like we're,
What about TJ?
oh, I'm sorry,
No,
TJ, yeah.
I'm with everybody on that.
Okay,
Motion to approve.
all right. Abby's made a motion to approve as submitted. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, very good. Okay, 8 Wall Street. Hi there.
Wall Street. Wall Street's doing well.
Good movement.
Nervous now?
Yeah.
Were you nervous
Yeah.
presenting?
Yes.
My goal.
Welcome.
Good work.
No, I wasn't on that one. I was a neighbor.
Oh, that's
Is there a 10.5 Cherry, another one?
Yeah, that was the
The
studio.
studio sailed through. Oh, you mean the,
That four.
yeah.
This is Pole, Oliver, and Watterson.
I thought these were all done.
This is the other one. It's down the street from Caroline.
Sorry, so can you say your name?
Sure, that's Apollo Vicente from the architect, not James Crowley, as it says on the agenda. So since our last review on this, I made a bunch of changes that were requested. One, I just keyed in all the windows and doors for ease to reference back to the window schedule. On the west elevation, I changed the pitch of that portico from a 4 and 12 to a 7 and 12. I also got rid of the corner windows, which were a concern there. We also got rid of the picket railing. There was a concern about mixing the pickets and the shingled railings, so now you don't see them from that view. On the south elevation, also changed the height so that wing, the master bedroom wing, is a couple, not quite 2 feet, but almost 2 feet lower than the rest of the wing. Also changed that little cantilever we had on that second floor balcony. I did keep the pickets on that side. You won't see that in relation to anything else in the street, but I did grab a shingle. It just felt very heavy on that side to have a shingled railing. And then on the north elevation, we modified the front porch, again, getting rid of the pickets there, changed some window position because that porch dimensionally got a little bit different. We got rid of the Juliet balcony, which is now buried into the porch area there. Again, lowered that wing. And on the east elevation, we lowered the master wing, got rid of the cantilever on that second floor balcony, and got rid of the long horizontal window that was on the bottom right-hand side of the porch. And then on the section elevations, again, you can see that the Juliet balcony is no longer there. That's buried now within the first floor porch. The pitch changes to the front portico. We also changed the color scheme that was concerned last time from the coconut cream to it's included in that photo packet. If you have it, to the cashmere window sash, and the front door is the cadet gray shirt.
Is that stapled to this?
Probably. Past my
Does anybody else have that?
What?
The colors?
There's also, there's some discussion, a couple items that we haven't modified. There's a discussion about the front door, that wasn't appropriate. I did include a precedent for the front door right across the street. That has that same Dutch door, similar Dutch door style. There's also, I think we talked last time about the balconies and the large balcony on the west side, and I included numerous examples of large second floor balconies down in that area.
So my board again is myself, Val, and TJ, am I right?
Yes.
Okay. Did the two of you see this?
Yeah.
Did you adjust some roof pitches? I see your roof.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
So in that, I lowered the master ring, and I kind of split the difference again, raised the other one slightly.
Okay.
Are you ready yet? If you're
Still
not,
taking it in.
Just
1 second.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question on the south elevation?
Yep.
Which I think would also manifest on the east elevation. You have this porch, sort of up the second floor porch on the corner here. Is that sort of cut, what we would refer to as a cut-in porch? In other words, is that a negative mass? That's a porch with a roof on it, right?
Correct.
But he got rid of the cantilevered part that sticked out past it on the south.
Well, that's good.
Stuck out,
Yes.
sticked out. I think for me, the only thing that didn't change that I really think should change is that bay on the second floor.
Yeah. Totally.
Everything else, thank you.
You are talking about,
It's on the west and,
well, if you look at this partial north elevation,
yeah,
that's the bay, right? On the
yeah.
right-hand side
And so
there.
you see it there and you see it on the south as well.
And that's literally something I don't think you would find in that entire neighborhood.
I did show examples in that
You
package.
did?
Well,
Some-
it's on the
some
first
bay.
floor, it's
on the
more of a
first
bay
floor.
window.
Oh, no, that doesn't count.
Yeah,
That's cheating.
that's not on the second floor,
It's
sorry.
overhanging.
Oh, yeah.
Good try.
Actually, if Mr. McLaughlin were sitting in that chair right now, what he would say is, it has to go all the way to the ground.
Right. And he's not here in that
He's not
roof,
here.
we would have been fine with the,
Right.
Well, actually, I think that you're gonna be better off, it's gonna be a more attractive building with the 7-inch roof pitch, honestly.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Putting the conventions
The bay
aside.
is a little bit of an issue because that bathroom for me doesn't work. If I pulled it off the corner, is that more acceptable?
no cantilever. Can you make it go all the way to the, well, that will look like a tower.
Yeah, I don't think we can do
worse.
Yeah, that would be worse. So it's not a ground coverage issue because that bay up on the second floor is counting as ground coverage. Oh gosh. Well, TJ, do you have anything yet?
Yeah, I appreciate the changes, losing the balcony, and I like the change in the roof pitches. I did, when Ray was mentioning that negative massing of the porch, think that maybe it could be fit in a little bit better if you shingled the rail instead of just to keep things consistent. With
That's a very good
with
idea.
the other
Yeah.
balconies. If we shingled that, it might do more than just keep it consistent, but also reduce the appearance somewhat of the negative massing a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah, I like that.
And that's
Did you address the cantilevered bay that Val
Oh, it's up
dislikes?
north.
I actually don't mind that.
It's too much to introduce, in my opinion.
I think it's like a quirk of a detail, but I can go with that. I'm fine with it.
Pulled it in slightly.
No.
There's got to be a solution. 'Cause
I have a
honestly, it feels
solution.
very incongruous.
Put a porch under it. Then it's like a lot of the Sconset houses that have some bay.
We're usually not in the business of designing.
No,
walls
but there are a lot of examples of that.
of what?
Like, we
Oh,
looked at
with-
some Cliff Road in Sconset where there's a little second floor.
Yes. It's all about that tub.
Well,
Well, I wish I could say that I was okay with it because then you would have TJ and Ray, but I feel the way Val does about it. I'd like you to give that a little bit more consideration. I mean, there has to be a way that you can do that, so it's just simpler.
right here.
Well, that would certainly simplify, yeah.
That's not
Actually-
gonna sell it, though. I think it has to integrate somehow. Continue the porch around
Well,
right there.
let's just say that, so there's Val's position. I think that if you had like a continuation of the roof plane going down, rather than a cross gable going in, so it coming down, that would make the window in the tub lower, but that's kind of a good thing if you're in the tub. That might make it more palatable. And if you ground it, which I believe is what you're looking to have.
Not all the way on the first floor, just
Conceal it.
something around it. Like if that tub
Yeah.
was over where he has the den and it went over that porch, it probably would be fine.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Anyway, should we just kick this run around a little bit more?
Yeah. Motion to hold for minor revisions.
Very minor. You're almost there. All those in favor?
Alright.
Aye. Thank you. Okay. Oh, he's here. Matthew's here. Matthew.
I'll have to take a look.
Okay.
You were down doing some big
Oh, yeah,
awards.
how was the marathon?
It was triathlon, St. Jude, well, we did for the St. Jude sponsor thing, so it was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's our 4th year. We raised 18,000 this year.
Oh,
Nice.
boy.
You did the triathlon?
Yeah, it's like a sprint. It's actually like a little bit more than a sprint. So my brother got me into it.
Who are you?
I don't know. It was good though. We raised like almost 70,000 last
That's
4 years.
awesome.
That's awesome.
I'll hit you guys all up next year. So.
To run?
No, for
No,
donations.
for money, mean green.
Cash.
Are we at 4, Hannity? Where? Cole, Coombs, Camp, Oliver, Welch, or Dutra? Welch, excuse me.
Right,
Right.
all right,
There you go, Mr. Chair.
sure.
So, I have to look at your drawings, but basically what we did is we took the front facade, dropped the height, I think by about 4 feet or so. So the scale on the street is something in the range of the structures in the area. Set it back, stepped the 2 sides in by about a foot just to kind of break up the overall massing, reduce the overall ridge height. Made a couple of fenestration changes. That was probably the most significant change. There's some feedback about the